and teeny tiny little car, really kind of a cool little thing. But the range on it was very limited in the winter because we turned on the heater, the battery drained very quickly. Because again, it gets amazingly cold here. Below zero is not unknown, and we're talking below 0 Fahrenheit. None of that effete Frenchified metric gobbledygook there. And so yeah, I've heard they've addressed that problem, but it's still certainly, yeah, you got to think about the weather extremes. And again, this pilot program will be a good test if they can get through a Canadian winter. If they ever get the pilot program off the ground. I mean, this sounds like there are so many regulations that have to be complied with, and people objecting, so many special interest groups. And it sounds, it's only a limited a time frame for this legislation. Probably they're just going to have to introduce another later on and standardize their federal code somehow. That I think needs to be done.
Yeah, because here in the States,
but it could be just state-based.
But if they don't do something about, like, in case of a fire or when that vehicle winds up in a car wreck.
They got to train their emergency personnel better. And injuries
governments tend to be, not overly proactive. They will face the issue after the issue has been.
Yes. Yeah.
Then how are they going to explain the issue of they knew about it but didn't do nothing about it until they got hurt or killed?
They've been doing
a few people die.
That's right.
If I was a minister, a MP, and a politician under this sort of condition, my heart, I feel so. My heart goes out to those families and loved ones, but we will review the legislation in the future.
So this never happens again.
My heart, I've got bleeding heart, but really, who gives a shit?
So I'm taking it that you condone Chinese trade. You're a Chinese supporter.
Well, and until other country markets come up with fair cost measures and consumer choice.
In what way?
Well, the prices. He's saying it with the price.
Consumers wish to, or unless you're going to regulate on how much Chinese companies have to charge you as a US, let's say you as a US government are now deciding on what other countries, what other businesses within other countries have to charge.
Right. Well, something to keep in mind here is if we're talking about something, we don't necessarily condone it. I mean, I talk about all sorts of subjects. I mean, you believe that? No, I'm simply discussing it. And yeah, China has, as I said, it's inserted itself very effectively into the entire ecology of the production of this stuff. You have to recognize that this is who you have to do business with right now, whether you like it or not, for a lot of stuff. It'd be great to be able to disentangle them from this, but that's a very complex and at this point an extremely expensive undertaking. So it's a really, there are so many steps we take down the road of life, and we don't always know the ramifications of what we're going to do. And there are times, yes, that progress consists in seeing you're going in the wrong direction and turning in another direction, perhaps going back. But it's also very difficult to cross bridges after you burn them. So, and building a pontoon bridge is a massive undertaking when, in fact, you might go further along and find a solution. Again, in 100 years, all of this technology we're worried about is all going to be obsolete. And they're going to have concerns about some new, think about, all right, 200 years, all right? I tend to as you know, I don't like the term obsolete, but... Well, let's just say...
I'll let you decide. I can see your point.
I know what you mean, because Yeah, but the thing of it is, after that stuff goes bye-bye, the newer stuff comes in, and still be the same thing, but more spread out more.
Well, if it's
Okay.
built, I mean, yeah, our technology tends to be built on other technology. I used to know this guy who claimed that nothing new had been invented since 1900. He said everything we've done since 1900 has simply been
Don't get me started on
refinement
that.
and just refining things, getting more exact, having better engineering, being able to realize these concepts. But we're still working, and I mean, I could see his point. Atomic power. When we had the atomic breakthrough, and that was going to change all our lives. What do they do with it? They build an atomic power plant. That's great, but what is it really? It's a big steam plant. They just replaced the coal with atomic fission, and you boil water and you turn a turbine. This is really Victorian technology, if you think about it. And no, it's not obsolete, really. It is. Think about this. Yes, you're right, Mark. It is the same technology. Instead of, let's just say, it's less effectively applied technology. So, but there can also, I think, be true breakthroughs, and that could come from any direction. And we can't even imagine it, and that's what's exciting and scary about it.
I'd also like to point out too about the fact when it comes to China. Now, a lot of people don't understand that, like, we can't disconnect from China, because if you take a look at even the agriculture, like the trades that are going on with grain and stuff like that, it's impossible for even the United States to separate themselves from Chinese economy. It's just impossible, you know. So
perhaps the solution is to unleash Chiang Kai-shek, as we used to say. Basically restore the Republic of China to its position of supreme authority over the mainland.
Well, I
just
think,
a thought. Just a thought.
I think first, Robert, you need to move
why not?
real quick. And after that, I think we need to move on to the second topic. So I'm getting an echo from you, Robert. You're going to have to hit mute.
Oh, okay.
I had to say it twice. Next time I'm going to deliver the hand.
Drop the hand.
The younger brother talking.
Okay, so this next one is actually something that I think is a follow-up from what we had last week, or the last time we did the current events thing. It was about NASA or whatever you want to call it. We brought up the whole thing about them doing the orbit around the moon, but we've had some bad results that came here recently. The Blue Origin rocket explosion from NASA and is going to be, it's declared as being a significant setback to NASA's moon plans. So this is something that I wanted to read to you guys. I got the article off of space.com. If you guys want to check it out, I can post the link inside. And this is actually something that I did want to bring up because I've always been a big fan of space exploration. So there's the link and everything, and I'll read the article for you guys. So here we go. The recent explosion of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket during a routine test is a big setback for the private spaceflight company and will likely have implications for NASA's Artemis program timeline and the nation's effort to return astronauts to the surface of the moon. The May 28 incident, in which no one was injured, occurred while Blue Origin prepared its fourth New Glenn rocket for launch. A static test fire of the vehicle's engine at Launch Complex 36 LC/36, located at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station (CCSFS) in Florida, was the rocket's last major milestone before a liftoff targeted for June the 4th. During that test, however, an explosion destroyed the rocket and severely damaged launch infrastructure on the ground. The payload for the flight, a group of 48 Amazon Leo internet satellites, was not aboard the rocket when it exploded. The mishap is a major blow to Blue Origin's progress with New Glenn, which was only cleared to proceed with the upcoming flight a week ago. New Glenn has been grounded pending a Federal Aviation Administration, which is FAA, investigation after the NG-3 missile in April, when a failure of the rocket's second stage stranded AST SpaceMobile's Bluebird 7 satellite payload in an unstable orbit. Now, with another investigation ongoing, the extensive repairs needed at LC-36, New Glenn may be grounded for a while, potentially forcing NASA to change its expectations for how Blue Origin will support upcoming Artemis missions. This is a pretty significant incident to happen to Blue Origin. Kathleen Curley, a commercial space industry research analyst at Georgetown University's Center for Security and Emerging Technologies, told Space.com in an interview. New Glenn is Blue Origin's partially reusable heavy lift launch vehicle designed to compete with SpaceX's Falcon 9 and Starship rockets. Before New Glenn, New Shepard was the only rocket Blue Origin ever launched to space, and each of those flights was suborbital, though long delayed in its initial debut. New Glenn made it to orbit on its first launch, which was January 2025, and performed a successful landing of the rocket's first stage during the second mission, NG-2, and despite the second stage shortfalls of NG-3, that mission managed to rescue NG-2's landing boosters core with new engines, which performed a second successful landing on Blue Origin's recovery drone ship Jacqueline in the Atlantic Ocean. So that's the article. I'm going to hand it out to you and see what you guys think of that, and we can go from there. So. Now, for me, I think this had to do with alien intervention.
It could be. They're watching us, you know. They want to keep us here on Earth.
Well, for me, I personally, what I get from this is a bogus bullshit freaking thing to happen. It's just like with Tesla. Like if you go according to Tesla's schedule, maybe 3 years ago, we should be launching a ship going to Mars right now. It was 2025, and nobody even announced that they backed it up. But you'll hear people make comments. The first shuttle going off to Mars is going to be in 2050. I'm like, whoa, when did this shit happen? You know what I mean?
There's a difference between Tesla or SpaceX and NASA. NASA is mainly taxpayer funded, isn't it? Sure,
Yeah.
it's still got a few commercial partnerships, but the majority of its money comes from US taxpayers.
NASA, though, does have some massive contracts with SpaceX.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar contracts. So, you know, private.
Majority of it.
But the money that's being paid for those contracts is, it comes from the federal government, I believe. It's interesting. I was looking at the article, and I don't know. From the tone of it, it was like they were trying to say, even though this rocket blew up, SpaceX has problems too. Elon blew up a rocket too. This isn't so bad, not really. But then they have to admit, well, yeah, it took Elon was launching again after his last explosion much more quickly than the last time these other guys had one. I don't know. It seemed a little apologetic when I was looking. The tone was just like, really, this isn't so bad.
Who is the I can't think of his name. UK Virgin owner, Sir Richard Branson. Wasn't it several years ago, maybe a decade ago now, that Richard
Virgin
Branson
Galactic?
died? Yeah.
Whatever happened to Virgin Galactic?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there a major accident on one of these things where the pilot of the crew died?
Ooh, I don't.
I think
Oh.
I remember.
Look into that. Don't remember the details.
I believe the death was that was the Enterprise, wasn't it? And it was in 1985.
But it was later.
It was in 1985.
Within the last 10,
85 to
I know the years slip by quickly sometimes.
2014.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Huh.
Wait, you're talking about the one where the first teacher was supposed to go into space, and
Well, that was a Challenger. That was the Challenger
yeah.
explosion. That was. I think that was this one.
That was yeah, that's US. That's NASA. That's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. But yeah, 2014, 2015, the Virgin Galactic crash.
Yeah, but
And that basically ended it.
when that
October 31st, 2014. First spaceship vehicle.
I've
Named
not
the
heard
VSS
anything.
Enterprise.
when that thing went up, they were igniting the engines. So I'm guessing when that happened, something like what happened with NASA, 1985. They were warming up the engine to see how it fires up, and that whole thing exploded.
Oh, right.
And that makes you wonder, like if it builds like how the rockets were, just gas gets separated because of what weather or whatever. That's possible right there.
Also, there's another report dated February 2024, which there was some experiments with Virgin Galactic.
It fell apart.
Rocket, falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of design fell apart inside the atmosphere? I can imagine how is it gonna be able to withstand outer space?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, mind you, that's only 2 years ago, so I've not heard any. So inflation that was calculated. Oh, you want to know how much they cost based upon today's calculation? Okay.
Wow.
Which years? Also, please include the years so we can have at least an idea on cost. We'll okay.
Wow. Huh. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Not bad. Huh. Hmm. Well, a moon launch is a lot more involved, but the first thing I thought of was how cheap pocket calculators got over the years. They started off with being these incredibly expensive things with tiny little red LEDs that could add, subtract, multiply, and divide that cost a small fortune, to now where it's the sort of thing that they give away with like a carton of cigarettes or something. They hand out calculators. Since I have a free calculator, and it's got like half a dozen scientific functions that I don't even understand. So some things I think do get cheaper as we get better at doing them, and of course the market market forces involved when you've got like a pre-market kind of a company operating under the forces of the market as opposed to NASA, which is a federal bureaucracy, which are traditionally rather bloated. Not always, but traditionally.
Just rolling back to the Virgin Galactic then. They paused the flight after June 2024, and they focused on developing the next generation, what they call a Delta class spacecraft. They've done limited glide flights since, with the last one being just last month, right? And the company expects to launch the major sort of test phase for the Delta class with commercial space tourism operations and to late this year. So you could, in theory, if you've got enough money, you could opt on one of their tourist flights by Christmas. Obviously, if you've got enough money.
Yeah. I might let somebody else go first and just see. I'd wait a few Christmases and see how well it went. Good to know they're still there, though. But it gets back to Virgin Galactic is not going to another galaxy. Starship does not go to the stars, and artificial intelligence is not intelligent, although it is arguably artificial.
Well, this just gives more credence to the people who believe that the space landing was fake. You know what I'm saying? Because the only evidence that NASA or any of these space-faring astronauts have is the fact that we have a space station that's rotating around the outer orbits. You know what I mean? They don't have anything that actually is space travel. It's all outer orbit. There is a difference.
Yeah. We don't really do much very far out anymore. We do send some probes though. We went to Mars, Martian probes. Unless, of course, that was just Greenland. And with a filter, red filter.
If anybody's interested, the expected ticket price for a 3-day trip into
Outer
space
space.
on Virgin Galactic will be expected to be over 750. Sorry, 750,000 USD.
That's actually
Oh,
pretty
that's not
cheap.
too bad. That's I mean, maybe we could get a group rate if we got the whole group up there.
Just hey, what
Quantum
you do?
gathering in space.
Just answer one of those freaking mail those envelopes that they send you with the credit cards in saying you've been automatically freaking accepted, and then we just pay them off in all of these freaking credit cards.
Oh yeah. You have a $750,000 line of credit guaranteed.
We just go up there with like
Obviously,
50
there are
credit
limited
cards.
seats, so yeah, there's limited seats, and the current between 650 and 675 reservations. Each trip is expected to carry 50 passengers.
Oh, I'd want to charter the whole ship.
Yeah.
Come on, we don't want to love other people up there.
Well,
Yeah, well, here,
750,000 times
Yeah.
50.
yeah, but what
Well,
happened
nothing to it.
what happened to the gassy people? You know, people that if you eat something that I don't quite agree with you, and you start breaking gas.
Let's not talk about the gassy people. We have Dan here. And
Presumably, there would be strict diets and there would be medical.
hold up.
People
They actually did have, when they first started doing the high altitude jet fighter pilots, they had to give them a special diet because of they would be altering the pressure so quickly as they're going up and down and all the G forces and stuff, that they did find that intestinal gas was an issue, so they did have to have a special diet. They were developing the first pressure suits and stuff. It's kind of interesting. You see the stuff they were developing in the 1940s.
If they were going into space, they shouldn't really be eating food. Like they should be adapting them to. They should be adapting them to new.
They should take space pills,
like
food pills.
M&Ms.
On Star Trek, they had these. This one race had these food pills. They just take a pill 3 times a day.
Well, M&Ms
it's mainly freeze-dried food, isn't it? It's mainly freeze. NASA, and the European Space Agency uses. The European Space Agency uses freeze-dried.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's
NASA
lightweight.
actually invented M&Ms. WD-40.
No,
Yeah.
really?
Yes.
I thought they were a World War II thing.
Nope. M&Ms came.
No, shelled candy covered chocolate has been around for lot longer than M&Ms. In this country, not Maltesers. What's the other one? Minstrels.
He's trying to take credit. He's trying to take credit
decades.
for M&Ms. You hear that shit?
I think the first chocolate candies in Britain were created by Sir Francis Bacon after explorers had brought back samples of chocolatro. Spanish.
Before, after he wrote the Shakespeare plays.
During it was a chocolate. You can only do Hamlet with chocolate.
That was like the most absurd question I've ever heard. Seriously, like before or after.
Yeah, but one thing I gotta give for England, when they were attacking the boats during the 1700s, and the liquid, what their drinks were after a while was getting really bad. The liquor. They had what you call that? That's how they made up rum or something like that.
Oh, grog. You're thinking of grog, I think. Yeah. It was like rum and water and stuff. I think it was named after somebody named Admiral Grog.
That's a British thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what he was saying.
Now, before we get Robert started, because he's starting to talk about indigestion and freaking
Yeah, that kind of trouble last night. We don't need that again.
Why does that remind you of me, Roger?
Well, I told him to. I told him. I told him. I told them not to do it because you were here, and we have to have respect for you because you're from Canada for one thing, and then another thing, you're a little Chinese dude who knows karate.
He's Vietnamese. He's not Chinese, and he's the executive. And he's the executive producer.
A little Vietnamese guy that I mean, dude, freaking! I don't want you coming to our door and just like whooping the shit out of us. You know what I'm saying? It's like
we like laboratory meat in space. Yeah.
You could grow laboratory meat in space.
So
we try.
I think we covered that story real well. The thing that I did want to mention too about this is the fact that it does make a really really good argument for the conspiracy theorists because like NASA and these space programs are completely freaking botching things up. You know what I mean? And it's and they've been saying it for years that it was staged. And by the way they're acting, freaking, they don't have the technology available to actually land on the moon.
Conspiracy.
I realize now that we are the 60 minutes of our era. No wonder people don't bother looking at the mainstream news when thinking of this sort of analysis, this sort of commentary, this sort of insight. Much more fun than 60 minutes.
So, with that, I want to move on to the last topic. I was going to do one that Mark was talking. He was talking about. He had posted something. He said that was on an intellectual, vigorous note. He said, "Who is this guy?" In a video for Liberate the UK or something. And I thought about that. And I was like, maybe we should hold off on that one until we do the political one because that would.
I think you should hold off on that even further because that's a bit way. Yeah.
Is it pretty cheesy? Is it one of those cheesy videos?
It's not. Let's say it's a politically sensitive issue, an overly politically sensitive issue.
Okay, so with that, I want to go on to a freaking article that I wanted to bring up. It's you guys remember how I mentioned the volcano that erupted and people were stranded up on the volcano?
Yeah, I remember vaguely about a volcano.
Well, yeah. This is something that has just recently happened, which was actually pretty interesting. It was 5 gold miners who were successfully rescued after being trapped in a flooded cave system in central Laos, while the international rescue teams continued to hunt for 2 remaining missing people. Have you guys heard about that?
I heard something about some miners. I didn't know it was in Laos, and I didn't know they were gold miners. I did hear something about some miners being trapped. I'm glad they got out.
Not all of them.
Well, not all of them yet. And the weird part about the deal is I actually did a search on it, and they aren't the only ones that this kind of stuff has happened to.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say in the last month, there's actually a good 4 or 5 incidences that's happened worldwide where this cave had actually where miners were trapped down in the caves.
Yeah.
So I remember you talking about yeah.
Dangerous business.
Now 5 miners rescued from Laos cave after Trust Me Dive comes off is the article, and I pulled this off of divemet.com. So here's the article. The 5 villagers found alive in a partially flooded cave in Zoisambun province in Laos are all now reported to have been extracted by specialist cave divers. The successful operation followed what was effectively a trial run yesterday, May 29th, when members of the International Cave Rescue Team helped the first of the trapped men effectively to scuba dive for 10 minutes through a zero visibility underwater passage. The entire extraction had taken 37 minutes. The Thailand Rescue Diver Group reported that the last of the 5 trapped villagers was brought out at 3:10 p.m. local time today. It later emerged that continuing water pumping operations had finally succeeded in creating airspace that had enabled the 4 other men, to make their own way out without further need for scuba. Now, the men who had entered the abandoned mine on May 20th in search of gold ore had been found in a ventilated chamber elevated above floodwater a week later. The rescued divers had brought them food, water, and blankets while a plan was formulated for their extraction. Cave diving specialist Finnish-born Mikko Pasi and Thai Narasid Palasingh, veterans of the 2018 Tham Luang rescue in Thailand, had arrived on May the 25th, as reported by DiverNet, and after finding the chamber had been instrumental in conducting and extracting operations. The chamber lay about 300 meters from the cave entrance, with access via narrow, hard-to-navigate passages containing sharp rocks and collapse hazards, and one particularly problematic submerged length of muddy water. There had been fears of further rain and flooding on the way. So the first run of the men had been brought out at 8:37 p.m. yesterday. Posse told CBS News that using scuba to negotiate the flood section had been a last option.
Just quickly, you said today and yesterday. When was the article published?
I just told you, didn't I?
Did you? Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah,
Which one?
May the
What was the
30th.
date?
May the 30th.
Okay.
So the first of the men had been brought out at 8:30 p.m. yesterday. Posse told CBS News that using scuba to negotiate the flooded section had been a last option because of the high risk of both the villagers and to the rescuers themselves. In the challenging conditions, any panic or uncertainty could have proved fatal. Posse and Palasi had effectively sandwiched the man, he said, tethering him, equipped with a regulator between them. In the submerged section, he had effectively been required to scuba dive for his first time in zero visibility. Getting through that 10-minute section had been what Posse described as a trust me dive. I got him through the restrictions and eventually, and everything, and he's healthy and he's alive, he said. It's not a nice place to dive. The guy was super strong, he added, and there had been many moving parts that can go wrong. It says 8 people had originally entered the cave, and one had managed to manage to escape and alert the Lao authorities after heavy rainwater carrying sand and gravel had rushed into the system, blocking his companion's exit. According to official reports, efforts to locate two other miners had not made it to the ventilated chambers are continuing. Although Posse told CBS that they were no longer believed to be alive or had been trapped in spaces too small for divers to enter. Other cave divers and rescue experts arriving in recent days to supplement the initial rescue team included the Chato Udon team and Norachit Kayat Menasiri from Thailand, Ki Kian Lee from Malaysia, Josh Richards from Australia, Robin Kusta from France, Aditya Harsano from Indonesia, and Yashitaki Ishaji from Japan. And sorry for messing up those names. I apologize. I am an American.
You speak English, and American English at that.
The only person who could have messed those names up worser than me was Mark Edwardy.
I was going to say you speak English allegedly.
Allegedly.
Sometimes.
The alleged language of the Americans.
Now, this kind of goes back with the whole cave thing, too, because those were adventurers who were going up into a cave or into a mountain that was supposed to be forbidden to hike up. And if you catch the article, like, this is an abandoned gold mine.
Wow.
Forbidden by whom?
That mountain with the volcano that was on top, it was forbidden to go up there because that volcano was always erupting. It didn't stop, and it's been that way for like 10, 30 years.
So they violated a law.
Yeah, in order to go up into that, and then like 7 people
So
here.
are they going? Are any of them going to be any of the survivors going to be prosecuted?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I haven't heard anything.
Well, they were probably trespassing at least, and probably going into a zone that was like deemed unsafe and banned for people to go into. But that's usually the last thing they talk about in the newspaper articles. They find someone somewhere like that. No one was supposed to be up there, but they found them and they rescued them. And they spent $1 million to get them.
Yeah,
And,
when you stop to think about it, if the two that supposedly, if they did die, they can be brought up on, like here in the U.S., if you bring people and any of them people gets hurt by what you come up with, you're held responsible for the actions of what happened.
Well, that's not technically. I mean, there's no actual proof that that's the truth.
Oh, well, yes, but what I'm saying is if that actually happened,
That's
the
what
government wanted to.
That would be for courts to decide again.
And that would go according to the area where it's happening, too. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't. I mean, you got to really take that into consideration when it comes to that, because that was in another country entirely, and it's just like this. This is in the Philippines, right? Or no, it was in Laos. That's what is that? Vietnam? Is Laos in Vietnam? Damn.
Oh, it's a separate country of its own.
Laos.
No, Laos is a separate country, is that?
I had no idea. I always thought it was a part of Vietnam.
used to be a kingdom last. I don't know. I don't keep track of
It's
politics.
it's the country, small country west of you,
Is it still a kingdom?
the neighboring west.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
Maybe it's between Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam.
okay, yeah, I always figured that it was actually a part of it. So that's something that really caught my eye.
South of China. Yeah.
Now,
And China.
I had also had a search where I wanted to check out, um, and it concerned this topic, and I found out that not only did this happen, but there's been other incidences within the month where where miners had been stuck in mines and stuff, and they had to be rescued out. And this is on a world scale, so this wasn't like a um, this isn't like something that just happens there. This happens all the time. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
not all the time, but yeah.
apparently so. I mean, I know I'm trying to find it right now, but I mean, I found at least freaking 4 incidences that's happened in this month that had to do with people being trapped in freaking gold mines.
Hmm.
Which is really weird, if you ask me.
Hmm.
So, and the thing is, it goes back to what I was saying before. This, if you heard what I said at the beginning, this was an abandoned gold mine. Like, this is very, very dangerous. You know, I don't get why people do stuff like that.
Well, they might have been trying to find gold, a little bit of something that isn't commercially available, but it's an old gold mine. Maybe you can find something, and people might have been sneaking in there and grabbing a few nuggets every so often for a while, even though it's probably boarded off, no trespassing. Because again, if you allow people in there, you're liable if anything happens to them. At least here in the states. So yeah, I could see that. I had an uncle once that had he was involved in the gold business in Central America, and it was a bunch of little hand dug mines, and you just go out and you would collect the ore from people, just buy it right from them, and then bring the ore back in. But it was all like little mom and pop gold mining operations. So I just imagine it was something like that. There's a lot of we have it here. There's a so-called prospector, the guy with a donkey or possibly a mule, depending on what he identifies with, and panning for gold, alluvial gold, or digging a little bit. So you can do that and make some money. You're not going to get rich, but there are areas where you can pan just enough gold to make ends meet. And if you like being outdoors and spending time with donkeys or possibly mules, it's a great life.
You got on mute, Robert. He's getting ready to say something.
Well, there's one spot that's really dangerous. It was on Gold Rush, where they went over to Africa, I think, to look for areas to mine. Well, within there, it was so bad that you had to have security and all that. Okay. Yeah, I can't pronounce.
They got the emerald mines there too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was so bad there that they had to hire security and all that, and law enforcement had to finally at the end come up to them and tell them they had to leave because they were getting targeted by the gang mobsters and troublemakers, more or less, that it wasn't safe for them to be there because they were looking for equipment and land and all that. And through the process, they were showing us one where how he was mining, getting gold is by using what you call that stuff that is highly it's dangerous, mercury. He was using mercury for gold process.
Well, when you talk about like gold, what were they the ones that do the mining up in Canada and Alaska, the Yukon and stuff? They strip mine, and that's the thing that people in Brazil have a problem with. Like, they do not like strip mines. They will, and the episode that he's talking about, I remember that when they actually were grouping together these villagers were to chase them out. They were going to kill them, and they had to evacuate them out of there because the people that were in those villages just didn't want to have strip miners in their jungle. Which I mean, that's what they do up there. So.
One of the earliest strip mines in existence was dug by the Anasazi people, the ancestors of the modern Hopi in the American Southwest. The Paleo Indians, as they used to call them. They strip mine coal. They used coal for heating and cooking and stuff. It's interesting. Strip mining goes back a long way. Stone Age people do it. So
They believe that the Anasazi were involved with aliens and stuff as well. Like they talk about them, and they also say that there's a good chance that the Aztecs were affiliated with the Anasazi too. There's really
there were certainly contacts. I think they found Aztec style artwork and artifacts. I guess they want trade routes up through North America. Small objects are often travel. Excuse my French. Often travel very great distances. But and anything it's always when you've got like a big powerful empire somewhere, all the little peripheral, less advanced groups are always heavily influenced. Like we found all those Roman coins in Ireland and evidence of Roman trade there. Sure, there was plenty of Aztec, traces of Aztec trade all up through there. Anasazi are interesting too because I might have brought it up before. They came up with some interesting archaeology of these structures they found in the Southwest, which were completely unlike the structures built by the usual Indians that live there. And they built these round towers, and they figured they were for defense because apparently they had moved there from outside, and the locals objected to this and basically genocided them. They would find these homes were all burned out, and they would find these killing pits where the people had been forced down into a pit, and they were killed by arrows, and they found the arrowheads in the embedded sometimes in the bones of men, women, and children. And the arrowheads were definitely, and the remains of the arrows were definitely Anasazi. And they asked the modern day descendants of the Anasazi about, do you have any traditions about these people? Apparently you guys genocide. No, we're peaceful Native Americans in tune with the earth. We don't know anything about this genocide. No, we wouldn't do that at all. That's something that the terrible, colonial imperialists would have done, but certainly not us. But yeah, the evidence is quite clear. These guys tried to, they were basically illegal immigrants, and they didn't want them there, and they genocided the hell out of them. They don't remain today. So, good old Anasazi. I don't know. That was my Anasazi rant.
Well, I always like to bring that up too, and a lot of people and whenever I was younger, I remember in Arizona, even like the Native Americans, they're the Hopi and the Navajo and the Maricopa, they were always big on telling people look, what you guys are saying is just a complete load of hogwash. And they had little pamphlets even out talking about how the white man was always calling frickin' the Indian a noble people, and then they had cartoons like this one had a guy who was from the Old West saying that the Native Americans are noble people, and he was buried up to his frickin' head in dirt, and frickin' ants and shit was crawling up on his head and shit as he was saying it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they don't understand that stuff. It was just because frickin' they had traditions and everything like that doesn't mean that they weren't killing one another. You know what I mean? Just because the white man and the Hispanic.
Oh yeah. Every title to every piece of land you can trace back, unfortunately, to an act of violence of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, every deed of property in the United Kingdom today, you can trace back to William I coming over and chopping up a lot of people. And they called him William the Bastard, not so much about his paternity, but the fact was that even by medieval standards, he was a bastard. Apparently, when he was fighting the rightful king Harold Godwinson, apparently he was thinking of taking him on one-on-one, and he noticed that he was a really good fighter, so he just got 3 or 4 guys, go kill him. They just ganged up on him. The arrow thing was apocryphal, I guess. And at the time, it was like, ooh, you're both kings. You're supposed to go out there one-on-one kind of deal. Now, hold him down while I stab him. It's like, wait a minute, that was kind of cold. But yeah, that's where property comes from. Ultimately, government is that which holds a monopoly on the use of violence in order to enforce its authority. You have the monopoly of the use of force, monopoly of the currency, right, and monopoly of the laws of determining what's right and wrong. If you're a state, you have to have these things, or you're not a state. If you let anyone else use violence, anyone else make their own, like Sharia law, whatever, private laws, and if you let anyone else mint their own currency, that's why cryptocurrency is so troublesome to these guys. Private currencies? Wait a minute. Who was it who said, keep the coinage in the courts, let the rabble have the rest?
That's right.
Right?
Now, before we go on, I do want to end this episode because that was the last topic, and that was probably the best way of ending it after talking about lost gold or abandoned gold mines. Those wretched people of the past that have just done horrible things. So before we go, though, I do want to ask if you would give your socials, Otto, so that we can, if anybody wants to know how to get in touch with you, they can contact you.
Well, sure. You can check out my website. That's navakavada.org. That's NAVAKAVADA. It's spelled just like it sounds. I'm also on minds.com, username Otto_X. That's EX, because I spell it extra fancy. And you can often find me places where you can find Roger and Mark, and sometimes Tan, although I haven't seen Tan over there, but I'm on Discord at the Infinite Imaginarium.
Okay. Now, how about you, Tan? You still online? We'll see if he comes in. Okay, we'll move on to Mark Edworthy. Mark, how can people get in touch with you?
Okay. Minds.com. Username Medworthy.
Okay, so if you want to get in touch with me and Robert, you can contact us on Element Matrix at Roger's Hangout, as well as on minds.com at Roger_Hansen. We also have the Praetorian, which is on minds.com, as well as a Minds group. So we will be putting these out as edited 15-minute videos for you to watch for free. And like before, if you want to see the edited full version of this, you can see it on my main account, Roger_Hansen, if you become a member, which will help us to support the show. We'll be able to schedule and post them on minds.com. If you want to check us out on YouTube, you can find us on YouTube and on Rumble at the Praetorian. We are also on Kick as well as Twitch. You can find us at Roger Hansen on Kick and Infamous 1969, I believe, on Twitch. But don't worry about that one. It's not important. Nobody really cares about Twitch. So. And I wanted to hold off to see if Tan came back yet. I was trying to just make a few extra minutes. Oh, here it's done. There he is. So Tan, do you want to give your socials so that people know how to get in touch with you?
We're over already?
Yeah. Down here.
I slept through most of the show.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, I'm on minds.com. My channel is TH2 Trend.
Okay. And I like to thank everybody for being on the panel with us who stayed awake. And
Executive producer is going to sleep through the show.
Yeah, that's why he's an executive producer, man.
That's why I get the big bucks.
That's right.